I accidentally coached a scammer and helped them get better at scamming people out of money. But something good came out of it. So in this video, I'm going to tell that story and I'm going to share how it led to me creating a whole Facebook group, blog, and mission around helping people beat scammers. Of course, it started with Facebook groups. You all know how much I love Facebook groups if you have been around. If for some reason this is the first video you're seeing of mine, then welcome to the chaotic creative madness. My name is Brittany Verlenich. I'm a content strategist, social media manager, and host of the Social Media Magic podcast. So if you love learning about how to grow your own social media, or if you just love stories about social media and the things that can come from it, definitely check it out. I'll be sure to put an image of the podcast cover somewhere here on the screen in case you prefer to listen to an audio version of the show, or you can find a playlist on my channel right here on YouTube. Okay, let's get into the story. So I was in a Facebook group, and this was for locals here in Arizona. And there was a scammer who said they were working for Amazon, which by just looking at the post, I could tell this was not a legit post from Amazon. In fact, I have come to find it's actually a pretty well-known scam. And they said they were recruiting for Amazon. It was well-paying jobs in a warehouse. And they had a link to a Google site, which was already the first red flag, which, by the way, don't get scammed. If a legit company is recruiting employees, why would they hire on Google Sites? They wouldn't. So they had a Google Sites thing, and it was a person not even living in Arizona. I went and looked on their profile very briefly and could see that they were not from here. Everything about it seems sketchy. Sometimes you can just tell from how a post is written. They were also asking people to DM them, which is usually not a good sign. If it was a legit job, they would say this is where you email, this is where you apply, and you would see it would be a link to the legit site. But they actually used the Amazon logo, copyright be damned, and just said, hey, go to this site and you'll apply. And I was like, no. So I went on a whole rampage. This was actually when I was traveling, so I had a lot of free time being that I was on buses and trains. And so I just said, you know what? I have the time. You mess with the wrong person today because I know how social media works and I have the time. So I started going through all of these local Arizona groups and talking to these scammers. And I accidentally coached them because I kept saying how I knew they were fake. So I said, you don't live here. It's very obvious. I can tell from looking at your profile. You're not from Arizona. They wouldn't use Google Sites. All these things I just told you, I told them. So they learned and they got smarter. They stopped using Google Sites and they started actually buying domains, blank.com, that was just pointing to a Google site. And I just kept seeing that they were getting a little bit better and smarter and didn't realize every time I had pointed out to other people, kind of like a buyer beware situation in the comments saying, hey, this is a fake scam. This is how I can tell. They were taking that feedback and using it. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I wish more people were coachable like this. Like, imagine all the great things these people could accomplish if they would take all of their knowledge and skills that they've learned and used from scamming people and use that to actually do something fruitful and productive. Anyway, I kept seeing this, and sadly, I kept seeing other people say interested, or I just sent you a message, and so I saw people falling for this, and that just showed me how desperate folks were to find jobs. I obviously am self-employed. I was going to say I work from home, but actually I work more remotely. You know, I do social media management. I also work in the travel industry. I'm basically a professional full-time side hustler. Anyway, I was like, you know what? I cannot see people continue to get scammed with everything in the economy right now and how many people are struggling financially. I just can't see it. I can't have it. So I actually started a new Facebook group completely outside of the teacher and education niche, completely outside of the online business niche. And it's about jobs in Arizona. It is the most simple niche, and honestly, I could have gone even more niche. I'm even thinking about in the future doing jobs in Tucson, jobs in Phoenix. That's actually a strategy you could borrow if you are a digital product creator, especially for TPT. You could do third grade math, third grade ELA, third grade reading, third grade science if you wanted to, but I thought jobs in Arizona was enough. I'm going to share actual legit jobs there. And as far as monetization, honestly, that was not even a forefront of my mind. If I wanted to, I can get sponsors or I could go like the audience building route. So I started that in late July. It is now early September as of when I'm recording this, and I thought it would be fun to give an update, but also just to share how this kind of funny story of me coaching scammers turned into me starting a new brand just because I saw a legit need. It is so helpful when your brand has some kind of mission, some kind of shared enemy, like we have to rise up against blank. Politicians do this all the time. We're in the middle of a big election right now, if you're watching and listening in real time here in the United States, and it is heated. Both sides of the two major parties are basically saying, you should vote for us because we're not them. Basically, that's like both platforms. I'm not going to get into politics on this podcast, but that's what I'm seeing. That's what I hear them saying. It's really the same with marketing. I was able to grow that group very quickly even though I don't have anything to sell them. I'm just paying a VA basically to post jobs in there right now, but I do see potential in how I could possibly grow that audience, maybe have a monetized newsletter, get a website, get it onto Mediavine so I can get ad revenue, all stuff, blah, blah, blah. If you're not in marketing and you're somehow watching this, you're like, what is this girl talking about? If you are in marketing, then you can see how I'm a really big fan of income stacking, because maybe you start a website for your business, but then you grow it up to a point where you can get it into an ad network like Mediavine or Raptive. So a couple lessons in there. One, there are always opportunities to improve and stand out, and anybody can, right? Number two, if you just apply your skills and strengths and determination towards the right things, you can see results, and maybe there's something else you should be devoting your time to. And three, you just never know who you're really talking to. Even though I was talking directly to the other people, the scammers are who also saw the post. And that's been a very effective strategy for growing that Facebook group now. And I haven't cared because, usually I would tell people, don't share in Facebook groups without asking the admin and moderators. I have no problem sharing in these Facebook groups because these Facebook groups are so massive and they're not really ran by business owners. They're like 80,000 people to 300,000 people in each one. They're really not ran by anybody. Sometimes the scammers are the admins of a group and they buy these groups. I hate to simplify it like this, but it's just people who are not from here who are scamming people who live here, and that's just not okay with me. So guerrilla marketing at its finest, cause marketing at its finest. And eventually I will outsource this bit. I'll hire someone here in Arizona. That'll be one of the first jobs that I've been able to offer somebody to go through all these groups and just point out to other people that they're spammers. So you have to watch out, by the way, for scams. If you are looking for work, just be really extra careful. So I just thought that was a fun story to share with you. Again, speaks to the power of social media and how quickly you can build an audience when you have a cause or a shared quote unquote enemy, when you have a really clear why and a mission. It was enough to do it just to stop seeing people get scammed. And as far as monetization, is that going to be a main income generating business for me? Probably not for at least a couple years, unless I choose to really pour money and time and energy into it. But for now, it's enough for me to know that I've been able to help a few hundred people avoid scams and getting scammed. You can definitely grow an audience quickly with just Facebook groups and nothing else if you have permission and if you know where to look and to go. So if you haven't already, definitely reach out to a few people who own Facebook groups for people in your niche and see if you can't collaborate with them. See if you can't share about your Facebook group, your Instagram profile, your TPT store, your whatever in there. And you know what? Even if they do say, hey, you have to pay to post in our group, maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's actually better that we pay another fellow creator, another online business owner, that we sponsor something somewhere else instead of just paying Meta, right? Instead of just paying Google. There was just a really good event by Elizabeth Goddard about this. It's all about sponsorships. That is something that actually might be worth going and just paying for the version of. I don't know if she still has it. If she does, I'll be sure to link it in the episode description below. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Again, my name is Brittany Verlenich. If you're new to me, this is the Social Media Magic Podcast. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. You can see the video version here on YouTube and on Spotify. Talk soon.